Fun. Hey YouTube, what's up? My name is Eddie Chappie, and today we're here with Gail Feldman, also known as the Radical Realtor. I'm
Realtor.
sorry. How do
Yeah,
you
I
say
did a
that?
few videos on my Radical Realtor channel and then just stopped. I wasn't
Okay.
enjoying it. I only do what I enjoy.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Okay, so we're here with Gail, and this is going to be an interview. So hopefully I can shut up because y'all already know a lot about me, and we'll let Gail do most of the storytelling. So if you're new to the channel, or if this is your first time seeing me, I'm an FTM trans guy, and I'm non-binary. That means that I was born female, and at a certain point in my life, I realized that wasn't working for me, and it changed that. And I'm here now, and I'm about to get top surgery in no
Woohoo!
small part thanks to this individual
Oh,
right there, who was the
oh,
first person to suggest that I do a GoFundMe, which is how I'm going to pay for my surgery here in Spain. So, okay, Gail, go ahead and introduce yourself.
hello. Well, first off, I started watching your channel when I was exploring being what I felt is bigendered, which is really how I see myself. And I thought, oh, I've got to find people like me. So it's interesting when I talk to my wife about you, I switch pronouns. It's like I talk about she, but when you were referring to yourself that way, and then he now, because I went through your journey. And so it's really interesting that, how the brain works around that. So when I started exploring, it was really, so first off, let me just say that I came out as a lesbian when I was around 16. I really came out as bisexual. And then I finally said, no, I'm a lesbian. But in reality, I'm bisexual, bigendered, bi everything. I'm just a person who is in a state of exploration, which is really what my message is. Mm-hmm. I want people to be free to explore. At one point, I was artistic director of a theater called Women's Repertory Theater. And the mission statement was that the body of the female is the vehicle for the exploration, investigation, and expression of culture. Mm-hmm. And anyways, time went on. I always felt not quite right. And I never quite felt like I fit into the traditional lesbian category. I never felt like I was a butch dyke. I never felt like I was, I just didn't feel like I fit in any of the typical categories. And when Chaz Bono, this is what started my exploration, was Chaz Bono.
Chaz Bono, oh my God.
Chaz Bono.
Wow.
I was 49, I'm 59 now, almost 60. And when I was 49, I started like obsessing, maybe 46, 47. Yeah, around there. Right before I met my wife, who I married when I was, we met and we've been together for 10 years. So it was a couple of years before that. And I was really like watching going, I feel like I'm something like that, but not exactly. I didn't know what that meant. And I was obsessively watching trans videos. Yeah. And I was really enamored with trans men. I watched some trans women.
For the babies out there, you want to just quickly say who Chaz Bono is?
Chaz Bono, oh yeah, right. Cher, the singer, actress, her daughter was Chastity Bono, and Chastity transitioned to Chaz Bono maybe, I guess, 15 years ago or so. And interestingly, he was, I just thought, wow, it wasn't like, one of the things that struck me about Chaz was, okay, he wasn't like a real butch dyke, right? And that opened my eyes, because I had this idea that only butch lesbians would be perhaps transgender, maybe, which is a complete myth. There are plenty of butch dykes that are just not identified as trans men at all. They really, really honor and love their female identity. They're just masculine. They love being butch. And that is a category of women who are feeling a little bit wiped out right now. They're feeling a little invisible right now, which is a shame. But in any event, So I thought, well, this is interesting. And I've always been the type of person that wants to explore. And I thought there's something in there for me. Then, I was watching the videos, didn't do anything, but I did go through menopause and was on bioidentical hormones, estrogen and testosterone, but a very small amount of testosterone. And then, so I was dealing with hormone therapy, if you will. Mm-hmm. Finally, on February 14th, maybe 4 years ago, I can't remember the exact year it was, 3 years ago, I broke my ankle. And I didn't know I broke it, but I laid on my couch while my wife went out to dinner with my father-in-law and his girlfriend, Doris, in their 90s, lovebirds. And I laid there and I did a video, which I've never shown to anyone. I still have it. And it was a video talking to trans men. I was in shock. I didn't know. I thought I sprained my ankle, but I had a major break. Sorry, my dog is in pain right now. Bye, Bubby. He's in the dying process right now. He's got cancer and all. Yeah, so it's okay, baby. Come over here. Anyway, so I was laying there, my leg up, in a state of complete shock. Mm-hmm. Later that night, I would go to the emergency room and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're like, you've got a major, you're like," so I was like in a state and did this video to trans men, thanking them for the courage to explore. And there was this real sense of, I don't know that I'm that, but I know that what you're doing is freeing me to explore who I am more deeply. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to encourage people to do. I was thinking this morning, I wrote this down, that if more people explored and expressed themselves individually, we would be in a space where we couldn't categorize as much. And there'd be more of a space of freedom for all people. We need to be able to be free from following, and we need to be free to explore. So I laid there, I did that video, and then maybe a few months later, after I had surgery, was in, recovery and started to, walk again, hobble again. I was on crutches and the cast and the whole bit. I had this urge for the testosterone, thinking I've got to explore, but I didn't really know who to talk to about it. And I felt kind of ashamed about it too, like embarrassed. Like I didn't want anyone to really know about it. Yeah. And I was talking to my wife a little bit about some of the feelings I was having. And she was like, "If you're going to become a guy, I'm dumping, you're out." And so I was also dealing with that. So, and I'm like, I don't know, but first what I did, and I don't even know if I talked with her a lot about this. I think I did tell her, I don't know. I've talked about it before, but she had a lot of extra testosterone in the cabinet because she also was on bioidentical hormones therapy, small amount of testosterone, but it kept piling up. And I noticed that. So I thought, I'm going to, and I had my own, but I was only doing my normal dose. I literally stole her testosterone.
Oh, this is so good. Okay.
I totally went in there.
This is officially the best how I got on testosterone story.
So there were these little like tubes that she had. Mine was more like it was like these little tubes, and like each tube was like 10 servings, like small amounts, right? I did one whole tube of 10 servings. And I noticed in a couple of days, I went, "Ooh, I feel pretty good." I did it again in 2 weeks, a whole tube. They were like, she had it piled up in the cabinet. It was like they were going to be thrown out. You know what I mean? Like they were, I don't know why she had so much. Anyways, so I was like, wow, this is correct. I feel this is correct for me. I feel good. And then I decided to contact one of my ex-girlfriends, Deej. Her wife was a hormone doctor in Orange County. And I went, I'm going to call Deej and talk with her. We have been very close. She knew me very well. I said, "Deej, what do you think about me? Do you think she goes, oh, you're not. I'm like, whatever. Let me talk to your wife. I got to talk to the doctor." So I'm like, "Listen, Chris, this is how I feel. I feel like I'm in the middle. I don't know exactly what I am, but I feel this urge." And I told her that I had stolen testosterone. I said, "I want to be prescribed testosterone." I started out with a smaller amount. And she was like, "Look," she goes, you're, it sounds like you're two-spirited. And that's a wonderful thing. So she immediately said, "Yeah, I'll support you in this journey." So I started to do a smaller amount. I've increased it since then. And I increased it to the point where I went, this is correct. And but I was open to, maybe I'm trans. I don't know. I want to explore. That was difficult because my wife was like talking to her psychiatrist about it, going, oh my God, she's, and she told me point blank, she would leave me.
Oh, wow.
Which hurt, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, God, does that mean that you don't really love me? Like for real? Like for who I really am? I don't know. But I still, was like, I'm just going to go on my journey. And what my journey ended up being was, interestingly, what I knew even when I was young, that it was something in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, so when I finally got to that point where I went, this is correct. And I told her, she's like, because she knew me. She knew I was going to go to where the truth was. She knew I would go to what the truth was, whatever it was. She was praying it wasn't, she didn't want to be with the dude, even though she's bisexual too. I mean, we both identify as like, we're the truth of our real, who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
So basically that was my journey. And, in short, I was watching your videos and I thought, oh, well, we're the same. And then you started to really transition, right? And I went, wow, this is fascinating. And it made me think, why is it that I'm one way, he's another way? We're all different, and it's okay. It is okay. And it's okay to explore. And it's okay to be wrong about yourself. It's okay to make mistakes. It's all okay. I definitely noticed some very specific changes. I mean, the physical changes are not barely noticeable to anybody but me. My voice is about the same. It lowered a little bit, not much. I've always had a fairly low voice. I'm flashing to a moment, interestingly, when I was 20 and I went to Israel. And really? I remember walking, and this guy says to me, he might've been a soldier, maybe not. And I was walking, I just have this flash of this memory. And he goes, why you walk like a man? And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's my country.
I hadn't heard that in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Why you walk like a man? And all these like little things like that, which I was like, wow, I don't perceive myself that way, but yeah, I guess I'm not typical in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, one of the things I noticed early on was I was walking down the street in the evening. I'm a realtor now. I was looking at I was going to walk past some house, and it was late in this neighborhood that's fairly safe, but still, as a female, I'm going to be kind of like looking around, a little cautious. And I noticed that I wasn't doing that. And I went, oh, this is interesting. I don't feel afraid. Oh, this is fascinating. Like, it's subtle, but I went, wow, my normal way of thinking, which would be to be really on alert, to be kind of looking around and to feel, is not there. I went, hold on, this is interesting. This is fascinating. I got to make note of this. I'm like walking, I don't feel that vulnerability. I also noticed that I had always lifted weights and wanted to always build my body. And I had less of an urge to lift weights. Like, it was almost as if the testosterone itself gave me enough shift in my muscle and fat and distribution, not for anyone else to notice but me, that made me feel comfortable in my body. For the first time, I felt comfortable in my body in my entire life.
That is an amazing sensation, isn't it?
Yes.
When you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh yeah, that is me. That is actually me.
Well, and for me, it's not so much we're looking in the mirror, because there's not much change in the mirror. It's the feeling. It has to do with how I feel. I've always been a kinesthetic person. It's always how I feel, not as much how I look. I shouldn't say that. Looks have always been, that I scratch that. That's a whole nother issue. But
okay,
how I
looks
feel
is one thing, and then how you feel is
the experience of how I feel. That takes precedent for me.
Can you in some way describe that? Like, now that you're on the other side of whatever it is that you went through, can you sort of describe, like, what it felt like before and how it changed?
I felt more vulnerable. I felt as if my boundaries, I had less of a sense of firm boundaries. I would say I took prisoners and now I don't. You know, it's interesting, that switch. And some of my relationships have gotten better and some have suffered. My relationship with myself is much better. I became much more, there's some positive and actually some negative too. I'm interested in the subtle changes and the honesty about those changes, the truth. You know, I'm always been dedicated to like that. So on the positive note, there's a more sense of confidence and a sense of nobody can step on me. I won't allow that. Not that I was allowing that before. It's a chemical thing. It's a feeling of, I think the muscle creates messages. I don't really understand it, but it's there. These are the subtle and interesting things to explore.
Mm-hmm.
On a negative note, I used to experience, I will call it estrogen-y highs, almost like an emotional, blissful, swoony feeling of complete bliss. I don't experience that anymore. Very subtle. I'm okay with giving that up to have a sense of more security. These are unexplored and it's my personal experience. So I don't, and it's subtle stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My relationship, I think, with my wife has gotten better, but not my sisters. With my brother, yes. My mother, absolutely. My sisters have struggled.
Are you out as anything
I think
to?
that they thought I was weird. Like, I'm like, yeah, you know, they just, and I think that my boundaries changed. And also I did go through a phase, that teenage boyish phase. Like, I feel like I went from a teenage boy to a woman. It's weird. Like like, because when I started on the higher doses of and I just do the cream, 50 milligrams, and I just had I think my testosterone levels are at like in the high 290s right now. So I'm definitely in a testosterone environment.
So
low male, female.
low male.
Yeah.
So just to get the timeline clear. So you started out actually at menopause.
25 milligrams.
So from menopause, you went to 25 milligrams.
Oh, no. For menopause, it was just a small amount. Like, I don't even know what the milligrams were. Barely anything. Like a small amount. Like, I don't know, like hardly anything.
The thing about the numbers is that because there's different methods of administering testosterone, and the concentration of testosterone really changes. There's and also the ways to measure the spectrum of levels of testosterone that female individuals and male individuals have, that also varies. So what I try to do when I speak to people is I try to be very clear about the method. Like if it's a cream or a gel or an injection, and if it's an injection, what is it suspended in? Is it suspended in oil? Is it something else? How often do you apply it? And then there's always something that's considered a full dose. So relative to that full dose in that method that you're administering, how much are you on? You know, because I think the people watching us are probably doing a lot of home pharmacology, trying to figure out how much testosterone they want to be on. You know, like between you and me, where exactly do they want to land? You know?
Exactly.
So yes.
Beth, let me ask my wife. Beth, honey. Okay, I'm gonna ask her how much she's on, because again, we both. Do you know how much testosterone you take for bioidentical? Point-
ml a day or something.
0.01.
Okay, so identical is
I
0.01.
don't know. Yeah, I
Okay.
guess. Anyways, I started,
Concentration too, so.
yeah, it does depend on concentration. I'm doing 20, then I switched to 25 milligrams. And that
That
didn't,
is one hell of a jump.
of cream, right? That's when I went through my, woo, this is, and then 50, because I didn't feel like it was enough. And then I stopped at 50. And that's where I've been for the last year or two, and I feel great.
So there's a couple of variables here. Like, first of all, age, like the younger the system, the quicker the changes, I think. Though yeah. So I kind of, like, when I went on a full dose, I was kind of expecting to maybe have that year transition that all the tween trans guys were having, and that did not happen. It took about 2 years and I'm 35 now.
Yeah.
So that's a factor as well. And then consistency, like, would you say that you applied it as it needs to be applied, or did you go up and down, or?
I apply it every day, once a day. Cream on either my arm or my shoulder. Yeah.
Mhm. So it's definitely different concentrations, because I'm on 50 milligrams of gel every day. So it's impossible that these are the same 50. It's not the same.
It's probably not the same. Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, let me get my bottle. Wait.
Yeah. So I just think, like, because so many people are doing this, on their own, without a lot of medical advice and without access to, like, healthcare, trans healthcare. It's really important that we get the numbers out there, because people are gonna try and do this stuff at home anyway, so might as well try to do it the safest way. I was just keeping everybody
Exactly.
entertained.
Okay, so this is 50 milligram / gram over a gram, 50 mg / GM cream. And 2 clicks, half gram topically twice a day. I just do the 4 clicks once a day.
Can you show the packet?
Yeah. You see that?
Yeah. I hope that's helpful for everyone at home that's wondering.
I mean, I'm older. I was in my late 50s, and now I'm going to be 60 in January. And so I'm excited. I mean, it's like, life is so good. It's like, it's like to never be to be on a trajectory of change and exploration. Even now, it's like fabulous. It's just so fun. I was a little concerned that if I wasn't going to transition to male, that, what if I start growing hair? That did not happen. I was hairless to start off. My wife had more facial normal hair for a female than I didn't have one single, I'm hairless. I have grown a teeny bit of a fuzz, but I always kind of wanted that, just like normal women. Like women have usually a little bit of, I didn't have anything. Mm-hmm. Now I feel just a teeny bit, but barely anything. So I never had that issue. I've had clitoral growth. I've had definitely a more fat transfer from my hips and my butt to my belly. Like, I never used to get any belly fat. But these are subtle changes enough so that really other people don't notice. Like, my changes are not physically noticeable to other people. Not even my wife. Like, I'll be like yesterday we were chatting. I'm like, oh, do you notice, she's like, I don't notice any changes. So it's so subtle. But what's important to me was my inside, how I felt inside. And the body fat stuff was important. That was my biggest issue. Like, I always felt like there was just too much fat on my hips. That was like that was my dysphoria. Like, I never felt comfortable with that. In fact, when I was 12 or 13, I said to my mom, I hate my butt. What is big? She's like, oh, women would kill for that butt when I was 12 or 13.
And you're
I was
like,
very unhappy
yes,
about this.
women.
Yeah,
Women would.
yeah. And I remember,
Yeah.
in fact, I had those gender issues. I felt as if I didn't want to wear girl clothes. I had my mother sew pockets on the front and the back of my pants when I was a kid, because girls' pants didn't have pockets then. They still have smaller pockets than males' pants, but they didn't have them. And I had to have that. And I did identify as a boy, very much so. I had a twin sister, and I thought of myself as the boy and she was the girl. So I had some of that identity stuff going on, but it was also just about the limitations. Like I knew that I was limited as a female. I knew this. I was like, oh, okay, I see the deal. In 5th grade, I was told, I mean, this was in the I was born in 62. So this was in the 60s, the late 60s, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Or early 70s, late 60s. I was told that I couldn't play the drums. I wanted to play the drums. I couldn't play the drums. They made me play the clarinet because I was a girl. So that I was experiencing that, when I was young. So there were limitations. So I was also interested in exploring around this gender stuff. Is it that I feel this stuff because of the society or because of something internal? And that was also a question that I allowed to loom, and still do, because there is definitely a crossroads. And but oh, my poor baby, honey, he's having some pain right now. Oh, anyway, hold on for a second.
It's really something that comes up a lot in conversations when I sit down with like very feminist people and like older lesbians, and they all say like okay, I get that you don't want to be a girl because the social role of girl is very oppressive.
Right.
And there's always like this tension of them doing everything within their power to expand the role of what it means to be a female in this society.
Yeah.
And then sort of us as in the collective of people that do not want to be identified as female. That's,
yeah,
breaking away from that. And then anything you do that is a masculine behavior,
yeah,
is sort of like recreating a boundary between the sexes that you yourself as a feminist have tried to tear down before, and I really have an issue there, because I don't think that there should be a lot of things that socially mark you as female or socially mark you as male. So I'm kind of on their side in this discussion. They're like, shouldn't you be trying to amplify what the definition of woman means? And I'm like, yeah, totally down with that. The only thing is, I also don't want to be a chick at the same time, And this really changed for me, because up to a certain point, I was really okay with being read as a woman and being treated as a woman, and that changed for me. And when that changed for me, I was also no longer okay with doing certain things that are very feminine, typically read. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I found myself like distancing myself, and I'm like, hold on. Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Yes. One of the things I noticed, well, I have a twin sister. I just want to, because part of our trajectory and experience and how we think has to do with our experiences. My twin sister, who's very straight, was also a very powerful female. And I envied her a little bit, because she seemed to, like, things didn't bother her the way they bothered me. She was always like, long and lean and skinny. She had like this power about her that, so I sort of like, I always felt like, why can't I, have, what is this like sense of vulnerability and insecurity that she doesn't seem to have? So what's interesting is that she was my role model. And I thought, wow, now I'm more like my sister with my testosterone. It's just like, So it's like, it's, you know, like now I feel a little bit more, you know, self-possessed, like her, not like a him, but like a her. So I was becoming more her, more me.
So
with the
there's a female
testosterone. But
masculinity to all of this.
yes, yes. And that's what I was interested in. Female masculinity really is what I was
Yeah.
interested in
I think there's really like a lot of people that
for me.
that are feminine and masculine, as in they are female and happy with their female identity, but they are also very
Yeah,
masculine.
yeah. But I
And
wasn't like Butch. Like I wasn't interested in like I still remember at 15, 16. And remember, this is like in the 70s. This is just like only a couple of years after the DSM said that gay and lesbianism was not a mental illness. So it was then. And I remember meeting like these Butch dykes like in LA, and I was thinking, that is so not me. And it was such a turn off to me. Like I felt turned on by either femme women or very androgynous women. I liked androgyny. So that's what I was attracted to. And that's how I self-identified as well, or I wanted to be.
And to you, there's a difference between someone who's androgynous and someone who's expressively masculine.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I notice now socially, and this is the kind of a fun thing for me, is in my social interactions with, in particular, men who are of the old school, I feel like I have this secret. And the secret is, dude, you're looking at me, but you don't realize that my internal environment is testosterone, not estrogen. And so it gives me the secret power.
Oh, I remember feeling that way. Oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. That you're like with a bunch of guys at a shop and they're like,
yes.
And you're like,
uh-huh.
I could, but I'm above that.
Yes, there's this sense of, yes, there's really this sense of understanding too, that I didn't really have before. One of the little negative things, I was telling my wife about this last night. I think, you know, I've noticed and heard that there are quite a few of men who have quite a bit of anxiety and stress. And I can feel and understand that with the testosterone. I think I feel a little bit more anxiety than I used to feel. It's just a little edginess that I did not feel before, which kind of coincides with that estrogen-y bliss that I was talking about, where I can remember just driving or walking and going, oh my God, I'm like in heaven. I'm like in this blissful state. And, you know, it's so agony, which is wonderful. I'm wondering if like trans women experience that feeling of like, oh, wow, this is such a cool feeling. And I don't know if you experienced that when you were estrogen dominant, but you didn't. So I did. I've experienced that. But so I've experienced the bliss of both a testosterone environment and an estrogen environment, the difference and the positives and negatives of both. So it's kind of interesting, you know, to be able to compare. Don't think at this point in my life, I would give up. Maybe I never would have given up. I think I'd rather feel secure than blissed out. I'd rather create those positive feelings from a place of stability. And I feel much more stable with the testosterone. This sense of stability.
That is something I honestly relate to a lot. I used to have a lot of ups and downs, and I'm always careful when I speak about these things, because I don't really know how much of that is because I have more of a certain hormone or less of a certain hormone in my system, and how much is that because I've been doing something that I've really needed to do, and I've grown around that.
Yeah, it's hard to know which. It's hard to know. Usually think it's many things. It's usually many things, not one thing. It's really the way that it is. So so when you started I remember seeing you make that leap, and I went, oh, this is fascinating. Oh, she's becoming a he now. She originally said that she wasn't. She was.
Oh my God, my mom gave me so much shit about that because
Did she? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
your mom, your mom like, you said.
and you said you were never going to get surgery on your breasts, and you said you would always still be a woman, and you said that you were going to breastfeed.
Yep.
Look, I know I said that. I know.
Things
I know.
change.
I know. I said I have the tits that any woman would kill for. I said that. I said that when I was like 14. I will never live that one down with her.
Yeah.
She's coming, by the way, to take care of me during my surgery. So we've worked it out, or at least she's worked it out between herself and herself. But oh my God. And it's this feeling like that when you have people in your life that are attached to your identity being this or that, to then go and do the opposite of what you told them that you were going to do, that is difficult.
Well, I think it's also really a description of the human path, which is change. We are changing beings. We grow and change so quickly over time. We think it's slow, but it's not. I mean, think about it. You're all of a sudden you're 10, then you're 14, and you're completely different. Then you're 20, you're completely different. Then you're, I mean, probably the middle years, you feel the most less change, like sort of like between like 30 and like 40, or like, you know, there seems to be some sort of like less of a visible changes. But in the beginning and towards the end, the changes come much more quickly. We are changing beings. That is our nature. And we change mentally. We change physically, naturally. And I'm all for science. I'm all for the ability to play with our creator in those changes and explore. That's, I mean, I really feel like this is the key to human happiness: is find your true nature, explore it, experiment with it, use substances, whether it's hormones or other things, use techniques, explore, grow, change, because you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it anyway. You're going to change no matter what. You might as well be a part of that and be active. And people should realize that even in themselves, they don't know for sure what's going to happen in 10, 20 years based on their own natural changes, changes in society, changes in relationships. They might make different decisions and have different changes that are a result of that. And to be in that fluidity seems to be a better way to live. And I think it's actually, if we understand that sense of fluidity and change, then we can better accept people for who they are and allow them to be who they are over time, not stuck. So many people are stuck thinking they have to remain this way or that way. No, you don't have to. You can explore and change.
That really resonates with me in like two big ways. And the first one, I think that what you said about change is that it's like the moment you are in seems very eternal, but if you look at your life, you know, you have spent these years as a teenager and these years as an adult, and you're going to spend these and these years as an older adult, and finally you're just going to be old, you know. And it's like, for me, if you take a step back and you look at the whole damn thing, you know, being non-binary is also a way to say that I do not disconnect with having lived most of my life as a woman. And I don't say female because I mean woman, because I was a woman. I don't look at myself as someone who has always been a man. And actually the word man is
like, some trans people, some trans people say, I've always been a man.
Yeah.
If they, you know, a trans man, many will say, no, I've always been a man.
And I respect that.
It's a feeling
in them, but
it's a feeling. Yeah.
It literally wasn't like that for me, because like you said, there was a moment for me in which that thing shifted. And before that, I was a woman. And when I went through it, I didn't know what the fuck I was. And when I came out the other side, I said, okay, I want to be a guy now.
Yeah.
But it was like, I want to be a guy now. I want, and therefore I am, and not, I have always been, and therefore I am essentially just that. And there is a change. There is an actual change.
Yes.
And the second thing that you said that really resonates with me is that you can actually do these things. You can't fucking play with,
Yes,
you can play with your
yes, it's
makeup,
your
you know?
life.
And
It's
and
your
I think
body.
like,
You got one. It's only one experience. This is it. Do
and
it.
if you don't do the stuff you want to do and
It's
you
flawed.
die, you'll
Do it.
die without having done it. And that's that. You
Yes.
don't get another one, you know?
You don't.
That's why I went to
Right.
circus
What?
school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It can be, life can be so exciting. It can
And
be
then
so exciting.
I think gender transition is one of the most exciting things that a person can do. I think it's like,
Hold on for 1 sec. Hold on for 1 sec. What?
He's in bad shape. Is there anything
Okay.
we can do for him?
I don't think so.
You gave him his meds when?
As soon as I woke up, 7:30.
Should we try the Medicam or?
I think
Yeah,
everybody
I'll
had-
do the Medicam. My dog's having some problems right now.
do you need to take a break?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Let me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
let's take a break.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. We can continue.
Okay, so and we're back. So
All right.
yeah, so just to
Yeah.
finish that last note, so you said that it's really possible to change these stuff, and I think this is where
Yeah.
maybe you and I agree
Yeah.
and differ from a lot of people. I don't want to say trans or cis or whatever, because I think it's just a common view
Yeah.
that you shouldn't play with your hormonal makeup unless you're decidedly transitioning.
See,
You know?
I don't agree with that.
And that you shouldn't have surgery unless they're like mentally justified, you know? And kind of like, oh, you frozen up there. No, you're not. You're good.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
No, you're great. And the way I look at it is like, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, why shouldn't you play with that shit?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like people say, no, it's bad for your health. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have plenty of shit that's bad for our health, you know?
Listen, what's really bad for your health is the processed foods that you eat, massive amounts of meat. I became a vegetarian this year, by the way. Yeah, smoking cigarettes, not exercising, there's just the reality is that exploring yourself and doing things that are a little outside the box, even exploring hormones, is not one of those negative things. It's just not.
And to me, you don't have to be any kind of flavor of transgendered if you want to explore these things. Like if you want to go on a particular kind of hormones and you understand what it's going to do to you and you want to take it. If you want to remove your breasts or you want to
Totally.
have breasts and you're down with that and the consequences of that, I mean, I don't need you to come up with a reason for that, And then another one that people tell you is like, it's permanent.
Yeah.
So are tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is having a child.
Well, there's only one thing that's really permanent, and that's death.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are you going to do before you die? You're going to explore, you're going to do things, or you're going to just like stay frozen, and even though you want to explore, you're going to stay frozen and not take any steps?
So yeah, that really ties back into regret, because I think that in that we are similar, that we did not transition as teens, partly because the option was not there.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't there in the United States in the 70s and the 80s. It was not in Israel in the 90s. So it wasn't a thing. And we have to come to terms with having only realized who the fuck we are quite recently,
Yeah.
and having lived a life that that had a lot of in it, because when
Yeah.
I think back about my 20s, which were spent pretty well, I got a good education. I had very positive experiences. I had love in my life. I had professional development and everything, but it wasn't exactly my life, in the sense that
Yeah.
it wasn't
Yes.
fully there.
Yes.
And I have to come to terms with that having happened to me, that is part of my life. It's always going to be there. Like those 10 years are, in a manner of speaking, lost. And then when I think about what that narrows down to, it's going to be regrets. you know? And
Hmm.
and the question for me is, do you regret doing or do you regret not doing? Because at this point, I regret not doing a lot more than I regret doing. Like I've done some stupid shit.
Absolutely.
I spent 2 years in the military because they made me, but I still
Yeah.
spent them, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I fully regret that. I wish,
Really?
yes, I wish I hadn't gone. I wish I had the balls to say, no, I'm a pacifist. I'm not doing this, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a moment in time in Israeli society where it wasn't very easy to do that. And I was the kind of person who, if it wasn't very easy, wasn't going to put up the fight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly regret having gone and having been a part of that mechanism. And it's kind of similar about like top surgery, you know? I spent about maybe 13 years like thinking about it, 12.
Mm.
You know, when I was 23, I read Stone Butch Blues,
Yeah.
and that's where they have their breasts removed at a certain part of the book. And when I first read it, I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then the second sentence is the character saying, I felt like myself again before I had them grow. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow,
Hmm.
that makes everything different,
Wow.
you know? And ever since that day, which is funny, like if I can, you know how important memories, they kind of have a lot of details in them. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
remember that guy in Israel
Oh yeah.
telling you, why do you
Oh
walk
yeah.
on the mat? You probably remember other stuff about that day, you know, because it's such an important date and it's in your memory like really well. Like I can tell you the season, I can tell you the color of the floor. I was like in the apartment I was reading it on, like I could tell you what couch I was sitting on. And that stays with you, you know, and you say, oh my God, 12 fucking years. 12 years. It took me to understand that I was going to do this and that if I regretted it, it wouldn't be worse than regretting not having done that,
Yeah.
you know?
I think the only thing I'm going to read is moments that I didn't or wasn't fully conscious and self-loving. Anything else, I don't regret. And I don't know that I'll regret anything because sort of like I see life as an experience to be experienced. And even those experiences that we judge as being less than what they could have been,
Yeah.
is just simply a mental construct. So I just want to be able to be more and more present in each moment until the day I die. In fact, I started doing like beyond gender stuff. The things that are most important to me are like my breathing practice. I do the Wim Hof breathing practice. Anyone can check out Wim Hof on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And that process is as important as anything else in my life because it's at the core of being able to experience my body and my internal self, which is separate from any kind of social things. It's just you and you. And the breathing method really gets you. I don't know if you know what it is, but there's a holding in that method. Like I'm holding for 3 minutes right now. When I first started doing that, I felt so afraid. It was like, it felt like I was going to die. And in some ways, it's like death because you're not breathing. It's the closest you're going to get. Now, the 3 minutes, bliss. That's where I find my bliss now. And it's also a preparation for that last breath. It's a preparation for that last breath. It's a preparation for when you're not breathing before that end. And that state is pure bliss. I bring this up because there are some things that are bigger overall than anything. And that's one of those things, beyond gender, beyond issues, beyond anything. Those are the big things that whether you're gay, straight, trans, no matter what you are, these are the commonalities that we have. And the preparations and the exploration in that we can do. So my exploration goes in so many different areas. It's not just one area, it's all areas, but most importantly, the big areas. And the big areas are really about your present moment in life, how you feel in your body, and how you plan on experiencing your last breath. I mean, that to me is a great life of exploration. So for me, I just want to, the main thing is I really want to encourage people to take chances, to explore. Just do it. Nothing bad's gonna happen. The worst that's gonna happen is that you're gonna die someday. That's the worst because it sucks that we have to do that. But the best part of that is that if we recognize that, and if we really stay cognizant of how short our lives are, we will take hold of our lives, explore our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and do action with our natural tendencies and science and everything that we have at our disposal to create ourselves, because we're creating ourselves all the time. All the time. It might not be physical, but we are creating ourselves all the time. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you have issues. I mean, I really do see trans people in many ways as the heroes of this generation. And because trans people are the leaders of literally taking hold of self-exploration, saying, I am experiencing this, I will create this. And I really see the world as becoming a better place when people are free to explore and to be who they are, in not in any way, shape, or form to imitate anyone else, but to be who they are. Then we have a world where there's so much variety and a greater possibility. Peace, because it seems as if conflict, war, and destruction comes from this sense of everything having to be uniform and the same. The tribalism, all of that stuff is bashed when you take hold and you say, I think I'll explore and change myself. It's a radical act. And it's probably, I really, really feel this way. I think trans people are at the head of the transformation of the world. I really do. Not because they're trans, but because of the courage to explore beyond.
I think once you
boundaries.
normalize something like gender transition, you really take a step past where our cultures have gone so far.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You really are opening a door that hasn't been opened yet.
It's the biggie.
Like we've always had like gender variant individuals living as their gender of choice, but it's never been done with medical transition.
Yes.
And for that to be widely accepted and widely like in practice is still kind of a fantasy. But if you look into the future and you say, this is something that can be completely normalized, you're like, oh, I wonder what a world looks like in which that is absolutely part of daily life,
Right?
Yeah. Like where this isn't a big deal, then a lot of interesting stuff can happen. Because when I look at all the mental energy that's really spent on dealing with just the fact that other people are not down with that, And I think this could go so many ways, you know, and as you try to find sort of I don't want to say a new box for yourself, but try to mark out the territory in which you actually feel like yourself,
Yeah.
you know, then it kind of also makes you look at other people and say, is what's inside of them as colorful and as weirdly put together as the stuff inside of me? Because like it happens to me now that this didn't used to happen before, but it happens to me now that when somebody tells me their pronouns, I go, and then something in my head goes clack, 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 clack. And then I'm like, okay, now I can see the X in you.
I see all people as male and female now. All people. I just see the both, which is really true internally for everybody, in, you know, even on a hormonal level.
Yeah.
Right. But I try to see the complexity when I'm dealing with people of their experience. Okay, this one experiences life on the outside as male, this one as female. Inside, they have a mix of all kinds of, you know, situations going on mentally. We're all very complex. Very complex.
And what does it feel like to go through life looking like one thing and experiencing it internally as another thing, when part of what it means to be that other thing is to have the world treat you like that?
Exactly.
You know? And when how the world treats you changes, what does that change in you? You know?
How do you feel the world treats you now?
Oh,
what are the differences?
Oh, the differences are enormous. And I think we're gonna kind of finish with that because we're running on an hour.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try and be concise, which I'm really not good at. So what what this
Welcome
has
to the
done,
club.
yeah.
Woo!
What looking like a guy has done for me
Yeah.
is that I find that people have a lot more patience towards me.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Patience.
They're like,
Wow.
oh, you got it wrong. No big deal. Oh, you need some help. Let's help you. Oh, I don't know, you're a buck short. You're a minute late. You're feeling down. You did it well. I don't know. I feel like the world has more patience and compassion towards me.
Wow.
That's one thing. I've never heard another trans person say that. So maybe that's a me
So
thing.
fascinating. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the second thing is that I feel like people feel a lot more at ease telling me that I shouldn't do something because it's feminine. Like walking into a store and getting like a feminine item of clothing, as I do because I'm such a faggot. And then and then like my masculinity is very gay. I'm not gay in the sense that if I were a guy, I'd be the straight guy because I am very attracted to women.
You're
but
like
then
a metrosexual.
yeah, but then the women I'm attracted to tend to be very masculine. So maybe I am I don't know. You were talking earlier about the butch women and the unsung heroism of the butch women. I'm like, yes, can we please speak about them because they make up such a huge part of my life.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah, I sympathize very deeply and I'm honestly like fascinated by their ability to either put together contradictions and live in peace or live within a constant battle and be at peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I feel like I passed through that and I said no, thank you. You know? But that's a different tale for a different day. So I feel like when I looked like a butch woman and I mean you have somewhat of a feminine expression when
I do. Yeah.
And I don't comment on that positively or negatively.
Yeah.
I never did.
I am what I am.
Yeah, you are what you are and I am what I am and the way I dress and style myself really hasn't changed. The only thing that changed is that now I don't style myself as female to pass as female.
Yeah.
which I've
Yeah.
done before. Like I would put on girl stuff to look like a girl because I needed to for various reasons. And it's like when I did girl stuff, everybody gave me the vibe of like, oh, that's so cute, she's trying,
Ah,
you know?
ah,
And there would be compliments and it would be generally encouraged. And that would give me like a very upset stomach.
yes, yes,
You know?
yes.
And now that I don't do that anymore, and I just get the stuff I want to get, like I have tights and leotards and I wear glitter, and because I'm like I'm a circus person and I'm that, like, you know, I can be a flaming faggot sometimes, and people really police that. Like people don't like that one bit.
Wow.
Yeah, that is
They
weird.
don't like that. So if you express femininity now, or what appears to be feminine
Social penalties.
breasts or things, they don't like, that's not accepted.
It's not
See,
accepted.
this is where men really suffer. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
So wrong.
It is.
It's so wrong.
And
Yeah.
you like, okay,
Men should be able to express femininity. I mean, you know, yeah.
exactly. And like,
Because women can express masculinity. This is one of the things that I can express my masculinity and not get
Yeah.
punished. In fact, I get rewarded for it. Being a masculine woman is actually, but not butch, but appearing fairly feminine and, you know, but strong, gets rewarded.
yeah,
It gets rewarded.
there is like feminine masculinity is rewarded. Masculine
definitely
masculinity is rewarded. Feminine femininity is kind of rewarded and kind of like,
Yes.
in a sense, like you're kind of rewarded if you do it well, but if you fuck up, oh honey,
You're right.
if you're gonna do femininity, you better be
Ooh.
flawless.
Woof.
And
Yeah.
and then masculine femininity is like this huge taboo. Nobody wants that, you know. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah. So that has changed. It's a different ball game. And I think my
If you had to
interaction,
say the best external, not internal, but the most positive external thing and the most negative external thing, what comes to mind immediately? Most positive external, now
External?
being male.
so I can't
external.
say muscles, right?
Well, I mean external meaning not your physical appearance and how you experience it, but how society and people treat you. What's the most positive thing? Just in a nutshell, what would it be?
I would say that the most positive thing is that the way I am and always have acted just doesn't faze anybody anymore.
Interesting. What would you say is the most negative?
That I am rewarded for acting like a guy.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
That's negative?
Yes, it is, because it's part of the same machine that kept me down when I wasn't a guy. So there's the thing, right? We all have behaviors that society likes to categorize as male or female,
Yeah.
right? And I look at it statistically, you know? You get a bunch of behaviors. Some of them are going to fall within the everybody does that range. Some of them are going to fall within the only guys should do this. And some of them are going to fall within only girls should do this, right? So I used to get really rewarded for doing feminine stuff, and the neutral stuff is neutral for everybody. Like everybody shits, you know? And then the masculine stuff I used to get punished for, you know? I was like,
Yeah. Right. And now you get,
or strangely praised for it, as if when I worked as a software programmer and lifted people, because that's my hobby, I was hugely rewarded for that, because that's considered a masculine behavior, you know?
huh?
And I would sit like this and that, and people would be actually quite judgmental of that because I was taking up space in a masculine way. Now it's glossed over and nobody gives a shit. So most of the behaviors that I have that are categorized socially as masculine don't raise an eyebrow, don't get a reaction anymore. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be dominant to a certain extent. And
yes, yes, yes,
that
yes,
sort of
yes.
stuff. And then I really hate it when people give me a prize for doing masculinity well.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you're
Mm,
such a good guy. Oh, look at that masculine man go, you know?
mm.
Look at you.
Do you
rugged
feel like it's like,
man.
does it sort of like take away from your freedom to be who you are and put you yet in another category that you have to then keep up with?
It's more about, it's not about keeping up with the category, because that is an internal battle that I have with myself. I have that dialogue with myself. You're not enough of a man. You need to be more of a man. And then I do something manly, and then my other part says, you did that just to so you could say you're a man, right? And I'm like, yes. You know, that's not feminist. Yes. You know, and I don't need other people feeding that beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need outside people making me more toxic, for example. Like, okay, acceptance of toxic behavior, that's one of the things. So if I were to be shitty towards a lady that I'm interested in right now, that would be met with a lot of, I don't want to say acceptance, but
Right.
expectation, you know?
Huh.
So this is like one of the reasons why I hardly date. Because I know that if I make the wrong move, you know, and it's read as like toxic masculinity, oh, he ghosted me. Oh, he only likes me because of the way I physically look. Oh, he's only interested in sexual relations, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know that there is, first of all, I know that there is a kind of person out there who would reward me for that, which I absolutely do not want, because it's still celebrated in certain like dynamics. Actually, lesbians do that sometimes.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to chat about that one day.
Oh, yeah.
And the second thing is like I know I have that beast in me because I used to be like a very chauvinist lesbian.
Really? In what way? How did you act that out?
I would objectify women. I would try to date as a sport. I would put down feminine people. I would use abusive language towards the feminine body. And
Huh.
I would try to align myself with men in every situation just to be aligning myself with men. I boasted violence, you know, I did a lot of things that I'm wholeheartedly not proud of.
Yeah. Yeah.
In retrospect, because I wanted to be recognized as male, which I think is something
Interesting.
every 13 to 17-year-old goes through, you know,
Yep.
to a certain extent. Like my best
Yep.
friend actually didn't. He was a sweet, sweet, sweet man from the day he grew his first little beard hair. But not me. I was a piece of shit. And now, yeah.
So you're not dating a lot. I'm
No.
just curious. How will you approach finding that mate? Who do you date as a trans man?
So that's an interesting question, and the answer is I date the people who would date me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyone that will date me.
Yeah, take me. No, but we need to be ending up soon. So
All right, right.
I'll try to do it in like 2 words. So who do I date? I'm still attracted to the same kind of person I was attracted to before,
Fascinating.
which is mostly lesbians.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Now you got to find the lesbian that doesn't have that
Yeah.
thing, or that's more and more bisexual. You need a bisexual lesbian.
So I talked this over with my psychologist, and she said, cariño, quien se va a enamorar de ti, se va a enamorar de ti, which translates in English to, sweetheart, whoever's going to fall in love with you is going to fall in love with you. Don't worry your pretty little head about it, you know?
Right?
And that is an honest summary of anybody's love life.
That's anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
listen, it was great talking with you. This
Yeah.
was fantastic. I hope that I'm, like we started on this journey basically around the same time.
we
And
did.
you went in one direction, I went in another. And I just want people to know it's okay. Whatever direction you go in, be you, explore.
And I think your particular journey has so much value because it is a journey not as often reported as mine.
Right. And I'm older. I'll be 60 next year.
Yeah.
I'm still in the life exploring. It's not too
yeah.
late ever.
Like,
Yeah.
like you've literally done menopause and then puberty.
Yeah. Which was so cool. That was so freaking cool to go through menopause and then go through a new. I was like, oh wow, this is so fun. And it really was a puberty. Even though like people don't see me as changed, I went through a transition, but people don't see it, but I know it. So
That's also something that's really evident in the way you talk about yourself and your inner experience is that you are really in tune with yourself.
yeah.
And I'm not. So that's cool and enviable. It's something to strive for, you know?
It's an ongoing striving to be connected to self and to others. I became a vegetarian. I mean, I'm changing as time goes on. I became a vegetarian this year because I don't judge anyone that eats meat. I started out as a pescatarian, then I saw and that happened after the January 6 riots. I was so disturbed with what had happened. I was so freaked out, and I really decided that it was in part addiction that created that addiction to, people's fears and addiction to the excitement. There were so many military people there that, one of the things we know about people who have been in the military is that they do have a hard time in everyday life because they're, they had that charged up feeling, all those things, but I saw it as a basic addiction to lies, addiction to authoritarianism, to the feelings that come about. And I went, what are you addicted to, Gail? What are you addicted to? And I went, meat. And I know it's not good for
coffee.
me. And I know it's not good for the planet. And I cut it out on January 6th. I was still eating fish and shellfish. And then a couple months later, I saw the Netflix video, Seaspiracy. I saw that. I realized that the oceans and the health of the oceans were literally the key to our survival as a species. And I cut all fish and shellfish out. So I'm still making changes. I'm not judging anyone for what they do or don't do, but I'm going to do what I can do in my life.
I think that's actually quite admirable because if our takeaway from I want to say drama, but I really mean like fascistic quasi coups is to do something for the environment.
Yes.
And reduce violence, even if it's not directed towards human being. Like if you're reducing violence towards animals, I mean, somebody's butchering those animals,
Yeah, it's key. And it wasn't just what can I do that's good for the planet, but how am I like them? How am I like them? I'm addicted just like them, but to what? What is it that I'm doing that's not healthy, but that I just want to do it?
How can I be less of a fascist inside?
Yeah.
Okay, Gail, I'm so sorry.
Thank
I'm
you.
just afraid that my computer's not going to be able to handle this.
This was fantastic. I love talking with you. I hope this is a helpful video to some people out there.
I'm sure. And,
awesome.
I think there's somebody out there who just needs to hear you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. You've been there for me from basically the start, and I hope you'll be there a while longer too.
I will be, and I'm sure that we will be coming to visit soon in the next year or two. My wife and I will visit.
In Barcelona.
Oh yeah, been there
Beautiful.
before. Can't wait to come back.
Because I thought you were going to say Israel, and I was like,
no. I mean, she
doesn't
want to go to Israel. She's scared of Israel. She's scared. I'm like, I guess maybe it is a little scary right now. But I've been to Israel many a time, and I lived there for a year.
We're not going there. We are not going into that discussion.
Okay, let's not go there.
We're not going there.
I will say this: we will be in Barcelona.
Okay.
And I know I'm going to meet you sometime, and I can't wait.
I would love to meet you in person.
Talk soon.
Bye, internet.
Bye, everybody. Bye, YouTube. Cheers.